All right, we are officially live on Spectrum and momentarily live on YouTube. It's still uploading the feed.
Eddie, I can't get anything to come on off of Spectrum on my TV right now. I'm not looking for the feed. I can't get it to switch over to Spectrum, so I don't know what's going on with it.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
we're live.
Yep, Bill,
We're good. Sorry, I'm upstairs. We're live on YouTube and Spectrum right now.
Okay. Are you coming back to your office
Right now.
or wherever you're at? Or
I'm coming.
all right. Yep. It's 6:32, so we're right in that ballpark. So we're gonna get right at 6:30. I'm sorry. We'll go ahead and get started with the workshop. We're gonna just turn it over to Phil, and I think he's got some stuff tonight. So
Yeah, I got quite a few things. I'll try to make it as quick as possible. First, I'd like to congratulate the police department. They received certification through the Ohio Collaborative Law Enforcement Agency for their safe policing for safe communities. Chief's pretty proud of everyone down there for getting it, and it's a good honor. The second thing, I need to get some decisions for tonight from you all on some smaller things and some larger things. We'll start with the easy one. This year, I always send out a memo to all the departments of when our holidays are and versus when we get off. As you know, if a holiday falls on a weekend, we get either the Monday or the Friday before, depending on if it falls on Saturday or Sunday off. This year we have a little bit of enigma. Christmas falls on a Saturday. Under our handbook, if a holiday falls on a Saturday, the day of observance would be the Friday before. The Friday before is Christmas Eve. We also have Christmas Eve off. So does council have a preference on and I talked to Brenda in the past, the village has given both the Friday or the Thursday before and the Monday after off. In my previous employment, it's always been the Thursday before. Does anyone have any issues if we make it the Thursday before?
Whatever the employees want to do. I mean, that's fine with me.
Yeah, Thursday. If they want Thursday, Friday, that's fine. That's
Mark, do you have any input on that?
You're saying that typically is the day before?
If the holiday falls on a weekend, you get the day of observance before, which would be Friday. But since we already have Friday off,
Right. I think that's what you want to do.
okay. I'll make sure it coincides with the employees and make a decision. I just didn't want to make that without, and council asked me why later on. The third thing is dealing with the MInerva Senior Center. Was working with Brown Township on a donation with their CARES Act funding. They are going to be donating the money needed to put up a walkway for the senior center. That way people can be socially distant when they get their food. They fronted the full cost of that. The senior center originally came to us and asked if we would consider a donation. We have allotted all of our CARES Act funding. We've already earmarked it all. So I am recommending that we give $1,000 to the senior center so that they can buy any additional PPE that they would need. Again, that would be general fund money, not out of the CARES Act. If council so approves, we'll need to make a motion at the meeting for that. Does anyone have any comment?
no.
Is that just for the PPE?
It would be, yeah, for the PPE. Masks, I mean, there wouldn't be as many strings tied to it because it's not CARES Act funding, but sanitizer, masks, whatever they best see fit using it for.
That's fine with me.
Yeah.
Okay. The fourth thing, there are two ordinances on tonight, both involving the same thing. When Clark and I were talking about this, we decided to put both up. Whatever council decides in discussion, we will choose the one and, obviously not pass the other. The FFCRA policy we passed back in March of last year. It was federally mandated that we were required to provide emergency paid sick leave and emergency family and medical leave act for all employees. We had the option if we wanted to exclude anybody from that. We decided back then not to exclude anybody from that coverage, and that went until December 31st. As of January 1st, 2021, that mandate is gone. So therefore, there would be no coverage for anyone that would get sick with COVID symptoms or anything that would meet one of the 6 criteria. Talking with Mayor Tarbett, would council like to consider extending emergency paid sick leave, or both emergency paid sick leave and the Emergency Family and Medical Leave Act any further? The federal government, as I said, the mandate did not continue. The tax benefits did continue until March 31st of this year. As a public employer, we don't see any of those tax benefits. So that's the only thing that the feds have done. There was hope that maybe they would extend the mandate, but they just, by them not acting, means that they're not going to do anything. So it's kind of in our court if we want to be generous to the employees and, continue to provide emergency paid sick leave if they are sick with COVID, we can. We'll just have to pass the ordinance. So what is everyone's thoughts on that?
Do we have the funding to do so?
We have funding.
Okay.
I mean, it wouldn't break us.
Well,
And
before there was a tax credit, we didn't get tax credits as a public entity, but we could use our CARES Act funding to handle those costs. So, when they extended from December 31 to March 31, there's no funding attached. So anything we do will be out of our budget unless Congress does something in the future that would allow us to use additional CARES Act funds that they would send to us to pay those costs. So right now it's voluntary and it would be, coming out of our budget at this point.
Phil or Clark, does anyone know? I know in the schools, we're dealing with the same thing because ours ran out the same day as well. Is there a timeline when Congress is going to revisit this and give us some clarification on, or some clarity at least on what their plans are?
There is not. Your guess what Congress is going to do is good as mine. The only thing I will say, the fact that they extended the tax benefits but not the mandate on the coverage is leading me to believe that the mandate is just not going to be extended at all. But a new administration, a new Congress coming in, it could change. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't want to speculate.
I think that we have to have that coverage for our employees.
And just to be clear, there were formerly 2 coverages: the family medical leave, which would give you up to 12 weeks if you had to take care of a loved one. And I think, Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not proposing to extend that, which was part 1 of the policy. Part 2 of the policy was the emergency paid sick leave, which has really 2 components. There's 6 qualifying conditions. 1 through 3 would be the actual employee himself. There he or she would be paid at their full rate. Conditions 4 through 6 are if they're caring for an individual or a loved one. And under those 3 conditions, they would be paid 2/3 of their wage. So we're only proposing to do the sick leave, not the family medical leave, which would be an additional 12 weeks of family medical leave if they needed it.
And that would only go to cover not if they're sick, but if they're taking care of a child that is under the age of 18 and does not have childcare or school is out of session.
I agree with Mason. I think we have to offer that coverage.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to put a time frame on it? Do you want to mirror what the feds did with the tax credits and put it out till March 31st, or do you just want to extend it? I mean,
Well, can we revisit it at the end of March?
I think we're going to have to have a date on
Extend
it.
it to the end of March to at least where they're at, and then see how with the progress of what everything is going, and then reassess at that point.
Okay.
Not against extending it by any means after that, but just don't want to dig a hole too big.
we can always reevaluate.
Yeah.
So Clark, under that, under that ordinance that we're gonna have tonight, 621, for that, in the ordinance, does it say March 31st?
We left it blank because we weren't sure what you'd want to do. So when I read it, I will read it as March 31st, and we'll just have to, type that in on the ordinance that you're actually going to sign.
Okay. And that still needs to be an emergency, correct? To get it?
Yes, and we'll be doing the second version where we're only extending part 2. So it's going to be the second version of 6.21.
All right, so you'll be reading version 2.
Yeah, because if we don't do it as an emergency, Mayor, we'd be 3 reads plus 30 days. And so that'd be a pretty big gap where employees would not have that benefit.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Number 5. Also, my 5th item that I have, there's another ordinance tonight that is on the agenda. Is that 721? Yeah, it's 721. When we passed the ordinance allowing the police department and just the police department to go to 12-hour shifts, we knew that there was going to be additional things that would come up as we went, that we would have to adjust for that. One of those being, we need to clean up the language that is in their ordinance for holiday pay. And this is extremely convoluted. And it took Brenda a good 30 minutes describing it to me. And it took me and Brenda a good 30 minutes describing it to Clark to go over. So just hold on for a second here. So and I'm going to read this exactly as I typed it out to Clark. As it currently reads on our ordinance 1106, if a PD or dispatcher works on a holiday, they will receive their regular paid holiday, 8 hours, as well as time and a half for each hour worked. This worked fine when the PD and dispatch were on 8-hour shifts. 8 hours were interchangeable. 8 hours holiday, 8 hours worked. But because both the PD and dispatch are now on 12-hour shifts, the language would actually short the employee 4 hours of regular pay. An example of that would be an employee X is scheduled to work 12 hours on Christmas to make up his total 80 hours for that pay period. Per our current ordinance 1106, that employee would only be giving 8 regular hours for the holiday of Christmas, and the 12 hours they actually work would be factored as overtime. This would then leave the employee with only 76 regular hours worked for that pay period, and would be reported and paid to the pension system as such. So what that's saying is, because the way our ordinance is written, that 8 hours of holiday goes down as regular time. Anytime that they actually work goes down as overtime. So when it is reported to the pension system, you will see 76 hours of regular time being reported to the pension system, and what would be the 12 hours of overtime reported as overtime. They will be short 4 hours of regular time to the pension system, which we cannot have. I'm not going to affect any of the, I don't want anything to happen with their pensions. So that's why we are making the change to the language that Clark came up with to take that into consideration, that they will be paid overtime on the 8 hours for the holiday, and whatever time they work, whether it be 12 or 8, will be factored in as regular time. It seems unnecessary, because you're saying they actually worked, but the way that it's reported per our ordinance, it wouldn't go to the pension like that. So that's why a change is needed.
Phil, are we happy with the 12 hours with the police department?
At this point, yes, it's been extremely beneficial with the COVID. The chief and I have talked that we do need to evaluate that once we are sometime in the spring. With shared work, our sample time was cut because of shared work, essentially.
And they're still happy with it?
All the employees, from what I've heard, are, yes.
Good. And it's working out financially for us.
It's working out financially. There are these little bumps in the road that come up with pension that are a nightmare. I'll speak for Brenda on this. They make you want to pull your hair out, and we're trying to work through that. So it's, that is one of the aspects that, is troubling, but we're making our way through for right now. Any questions on that?
So as best you can tell, Phil, what you're saying is that it's not only beneficial for the employees, but it has been, from what you've seen in the short sample window, beneficial for us financially.
As of right now, yes. On the short sample size or the small sample size that we have.
And Phil, just if I could ask you, because I don't know if I got the answer from you or Brenda, when
Yeah.
I drafted that language, I said that the vacation hours, the 8 hours vacation or compensatory time can be used to count towards the 80 pensionable. Is that correct? So if they
Yes.
wanted to use comp time on that one holiday, that can still be pensionable, correct?
If they
That's the way
wanted
I
to save it
drafted
as
the
comp,
ordinance.
Clark, if they want to save it as comp,
Well,
or they want to
You know,
use it as accrued comp.
if they elected to take it as comp,
If they save
Good.
it, what happens with that is then they use it at another time, yes. So it would be regular hours. They just put it in their comp bank to save.
also that language, when it gives them an option, that's just them putting it in their comp bank.
That is correct.
Okay. Well, as you read my ordinance, when it said they could use the comp hours, did that sound okay to you, that those comp hours can count towards the 80?
Yes, because my interpretation of that was you were just stating they could use those comp hours for further future use.
Okay.
If I might speak up, Phil, here.
Mhm.
And council, please. We seem, at least to me right at the moment, that we don't have this pinned down with all the answers. There's a couple things coming up here now with, does this count or comp, or I'm uneasy with the fact, and I know it's important that this get done, but I'm not hearing the completeness of the whole thing, the whole ordinance, and I sure don't want to do an ordinance and come back in the next meeting and say, well, we got to change that. Are we are we okay, Clark? I mean, do we have this spelled out, or now we got other questions that we got to answer before we can do this?
No, I think we're okay. It was just, when I was going through the ordinance, if the officer was not scheduled to work on the holiday, I just wanted to be sure that 8-hour vacation pay could be counted towards their 80 biweekly pay period. And that if they, elected to comp time, that would be able to make up the 80-hour biweekly pay period. And if both of those are the case, then I think we're good. I just, had to ask Brenda and Phil to make sure that those two elements were pensionable. And if they are pensionable, as Brenda has indicated, then I think we're okay.
Brenda,
Yes,
is that your understanding? Is that,
yes, everything is pensionable. Everything is pensionable. The only time there is not pensionable is when an employee decides to retire or they give us a one-time lump sum. That is when it's not pensionable. But everything that's in this ordinance is pensionable.
Okay.
okay, all right, so we do have the legalities correct then, the wording?
I would say yes, yes.
Phil, does that sound right to
Yes.
you?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on that yet? Okay, I guess we're okay with that.
All right, moving on to hopefully a fun topic is actually, we have in your last update that I provided to you, we got the estimate and a preliminary drawing for the sign out on 30. My biggest thing with Signature Sign Company, they are the company that did the Cleveland sign and the Ohio Find It Here letters for ODOT, was I wanted to see how much it would cost us. And based on the same size as Cleveland sign, it would be around 50K. Speaking with Bruce, he said that the cost can be reduced based on us excavating and pouring the footer and doing the prep work on the site. So that gives us a jumping off point of how much, if we wanted to go a simple, I don't want to say simple. I don't want to, if we wanted to do with the, the script MInerva sign there, we have a starting point of how much it would cost us. So does council have any comments about that? Or, I mean,
So I know we've had discussions with some different groups about possibly donating towards. Do we have anything concrete as far as who and how much? I don't know that we need to talk about how much, but what groups have kind of stepped up and said they'd be willing to work with us on that?
we've received word from the groups, not how much they would donate, but we wanted to, when we talked about it last, we wanted to figure out a rough estimate of what kind of price we're looking at and then go from there. So now that we have the price, we can go to these groups and say, hey, listen, this is what we're looking at. This is a project estimate. Would anybody like to put in for it, I guess? But I want to kind of get the idea of what we want to do first before we go to them. Because I'm not saying this, I'm not saying this is exactly what we should do. This is what needs to be there. I think we need to have an idea of what we want there before we start asking for money.
What's the size of that?
That size is,
I think it's 20 foot by 4 foot.
Yeah.
20?
4 feet high by, 3 feet 9 inches by 20 feet.
My question is, how much are we going to save on us doing the excavating? I mean, that land is, the picture you gave me looked like the sign sat with the contour of the field.
It kind of cut out there a little bit. Say it one more time, Elliot.
how much is doing the excavating going to save us?
I don't know. I did not ask that from him. I did not ask a specific how much it cut down on the cost.
And did that include electrical, lighting?
No, it did not. I mean, if we want, I can invite Signature Sign down to one of these meetings. Well, invite him to a Zoom meeting and have him explain it a little bit better. But you know, having a estimated cost to go off of makes, you know, allows us to say, hey, is this even worth it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my opinion is the sign looks great. I think it's a great idea, and we got to do something with that property. I 100% agree with Mason. But $50,000 would go a long way to the community building too.
Yeah, especially if that's not including the electric at night or keeping it lit.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, the best case scenario for this is to possibly, and I know now's not a great time, that's the problem, to go to businesses and to local people just to see what, you know, what we can do to reduce that price for us. I think it'd be great to have them come into a Zoom meeting, though.
Like I said,
are there other places that we can get estimates from?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's probably, I don't even know how many there would be. I just went with the people that did the Cleveland sign because we know of what they produced.
I think it would look great. I mean, I'm not against it or anything. I just, you know, we had talked in the past before this of, you know, the pending renovations that the community building is going to need. And that's, I think, a bigger asset to our community than, you know, spending that kind of money on a sign right now. Not that I don't think we need to do something there, but I mean, that's a lot of money to come off of with the needs of the community building.
Absolutely.
But do we own the community building?
Yes, we do.
Has it been rented out at all lately, or is it still pretty quiet?
I have not connected.
Patty,
Go
do
ahead,
you
Tim.
know for sure?
Sorry, I had to mute myself. No, I don't. I've not heard of anybody renting it.
There might have been a couple little things, but I don't think it's been anything else.
And Mason, to your point, that's something we need to clear up too. I
think that's a kind of a messy situation.
If we're going to put money into it, which I think we need to, I think we need to make, you know, we need to decide who's running it and kind of get that more organized.
I don't think the issue this year was with who's running it. The people that run it do a fantastic job by everything I've heard. It's the fact that we weren't able to be open. I mean, COVID limited their revenue.
No, I don't think that's what we're talking about. I think we just want to make sure that we're putting money into something that's ours.
Okay.
You know, the entity that actually runs it, you know, they've taken great care of the building. I mean, it's an old building now.
I think you further involve, if that thing evolves into something, I almost think you bring the park board into it and let them drive some things too with it.
Is that with the sign or with the community building?
Community building. So.
Okay.
I'd love to get some more estimates as well, though, Phil.
Okay.
What else you got, Phil?
I'll let JT, it's in his update, but this will be going on our website. We'll make sure it's on our Facebook. We'll make sure it's on the website for the public. That's the Route 30 meeting for ODOT. And that's all I got.
What about the pavilions? Did you?
Yeah, we do have time to talk about that. What is everyone's, we haven't gotten official word back on the pavilions yet. I contacted my person at the health department. They have not replied to me yet, which leads me to believe that we're still in a holding pattern for that of what is allowable per the governor's orders.
Why don't we just reduce, maybe take 2 picnic tables out, and I think we should just open them up, rent them out, but just it's up to the renter to practice social distancing and the mask and all that stuff. I mean, I don't know what I don't know what everybody else thinks, but I'd hate to just see them empty all summer again. And then I was going to ask too about the, have they said anything about pools or anything yet, or is that still?
No update that I've heard.
Okay.
The only question we'd have with pavilions is the public restrooms. Would they have to be sanitized every so often, or could we just say, use at your own risk?
I think if the parks people sanitize them to the day before, I don't see I don't know. Or would you up the pavilion rental and have a porta-john dropped off?
Do we have to offer public restrooms with the rental?
No, we have one porta-john at each park currently that we always keep down there at each park. And then we usually add a couple extra in the summer at each park for ball games and things like that. So, we can just say use the porta-johns that, we usually buy anyway. And that would make it easier than, public restrooms.
I think that's what we do, and I think we need to look at our costs for the rentals, because I don't think they're high enough.
Have we ever decided, and I know that we're talking a little bit out of order, but as far as what we're doing with that pavilion at the swimming pool?
No, the council never made a
Crickets.
decision on that.
What was that? What'd you say again, Mason?
Did we ever make a decision on the pavilion at the swimming pool?
I don't think we
I think
did.
there was a lot of discussion, and then we never came to a decisive.
What's our pavilion? Is our pavilion rental the same at Bicentennial and at Brock Park?
Yes, all pavilions are $75 if you live in town and $90 if you live out of town.
That's for the day.
Correct.
And Elliot, you don't think that's enough?
What's Louisville getting right now? I want to say it's 90 for everybody, if not just city residents.
Louisville is slightly higher, but they also offer things that we don't offer. Sometimes they have indoor pavilions or they have grills. They have things that we don't have there.
I just saw it says rental fees and deposits range from 70 to 105 for city residents and 100 to 170 for non-residents. Yeah, they have restrooms, electrical, and grilling. They also have a splash pad.
Matt, is there rental for all day or is it a block?
It doesn't, it doesn't say all day. I mean, it just says, I assume it's all day. It doesn't say anything about the time part.
The issue with doing with blocks is Justin would have to go in between each rental and clean, and then he's stuck down there every 2 hours or 4 hours or whatever, depending on which pavilions are rented out for how long.
Well, no, I completely agree. I would only suggest 2 blocks, and he'd be down there, cleaning out in 1 2-hour window in between 2 blocks.
Does every pavilion have Does every pavilion have an electrical hookup?
Yes.
Okay. I was gonna say maybe you could maybe some of our better pavilions you could have a slightly higher fee than the other ones. I don't know though.
Well, the electric in some of the pavilions is not great. If you plug in a strip and maybe more than a couple cross pots, it'll blow. We just updated the electric, at Bicentennial, JT, right? So I think that one's up, yeah.
Well, with the pavilion at the pool, I mean, I don't think we can do a day rental there. I think there's no reason why we can't do block rentals at the pool.
You mean the one inside, Elliot, that they just built?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, because if we do a $75 rental, like I said, I'm going to rent it out myself every day for $75 and then charge people $5 to sit under the shade.
I mean, if you want it for the whole day, you got to rent all the blocks, right?
Right, 4 blocks for $75 a piece.
Yeah.
If we're able to open the pool.
Tables BT are going to fit in that pavilion. Do we know?
It's like 2 or 3 picnic tables, I think.
It is smaller than the pavilions in the parks, but I'd have to get the square footage.
We just got to get it open. We need to start there, Elliot.
Yeah, I think the sooner we know that we're going to move forward with opening the pool instead of, I mean, we were unfortunate to find out so late last year with what we were going to do just because of how the guidelines have fell. But hopefully they release something here soon and we can make a reasonable judgment off of that and get going. And we're not a month or something behind in a potential opening of it.
But the money that we saved last year from not opening could pay for our sign.
No, it cannot.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm just kidding.
It's a
Paid for one of the chairs for the pool.
It's a good try, Mason.
Where we at then?
I'm updating my inquiry to the health department as we speak about pools. Hopefully they'll get back. That's all I have for tonight, Mayor.
Well, we kind of leave this. What are we doing? We leaving this pavilion thing hang for now, or what are we doing? I know we can't do anything with the pool really and worry about that pavilion, but are we saying anything else about the other ones?
I think start taking reservations. If we got to call people back and tell them we can't open by their reservation, then we'll refund their money.
Will there be any limits due to the size of the pavilion?
That might be something to talk to Aaron about. I'm not sure what the guidelines are for square footage and seating and whatnot, but at some point it's got to be on the renter's responsibility for social distancing and wearing masks and stuff.
Well, I think that's that's something we have to drive here a little bit. If we're gonna put, let's say, the pavilion beside the swimming pool, right? Because we can force the issue a little bit because we're going in there and say, okay, in this pavilion, we're putting 4 tables out. You'll have 4 tables. And if you're getting the bigger pavilion, you'll have 8 tables. We're gonna limit it in some manner. By how many tables? We just can't put 10 tables in there and expect them to do something. It's just not gonna happen. So if the pavilion next to the pool, if we say, well, 4 tables, 6 at a table, that's 24, 25 people. Not counting if they bring their own lounge chairs or whatever, okay? Are we okay with that? And if somebody rents the one down in Bicentennial, the big one, they get 8 tables with 6 people at a table, and now they got almost 50. I think we gotta I'm not saying we gotta do it tonight, but we gotta decide where that's gonna be.
Do we have a place to store the extra tables? Because, currently like that Hart Pavilion there by the pool would have 12 8-foot tables. So if we're only gonna let them use 4, do we have a place to store the extra 8 just from that pavilion alone?
We
So we just
have,
gonna leave them by the service building?
we have a huge pile behind the service building where they pulled them.
Okay.
Not a fenced area. So if they understand that that's what you get, and there will be no more, you can't say, well, I need another one. Then that pavilion doesn't fit your needs.
I think that's good, Tim. We limit whatever. You give them the limitations, and they can rent the pavilion that fits their needs the most.
Well, let's come back with some solid things for the next meeting so we can act. So if Patty and them or any of them, whoever's taking the reservations can get started. That work, Patty?
That works fine. We should maybe talk to Justin and see what works with him also.
Yeah.
Just to make sure.
Put your heads around what Elliot's talking about too with the blocks. I know people are gonna, say, well, I want it so we can have 2 meals in there. I want to have one at 11:30 or noon, and I want to have another one at 5. And I know you want to pay for the blocks. I think we got to do a little checking around on how that applies to the parks around us and see if they're doing that. Because we sure don't want to cause where somebody's supposed to have it at 5 and the people are still lingering at 4:30, 4:45.
And that happens, people sometimes get the wrong pavilion, they get the wrong day, they, thought they rented it and they didn't, and we have issues down there almost every year. I think you're gonna have issues if you set time limits, I'll be honest.
But bring your solid ideas back for the next meeting and we'll make a decision on where we're going. Phil, that it?
That's all I got.
One quick comment on the agenda. Are we going to have a short executive session, Phil, to go over the MInerva Dairy Settlement Agreement so we can get back to Bob and Jim on
You mean
that to get
pending
that moving?
You mean the pending litigation? Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Short and sweet. I just said short and sweet.
I think it could be. I mean, we're putting together the final agreement, and there's a few comments I just want to make sure that we're on board with.
Just so everybody knows, that may go to executive session and then come back and actually have to do something. So, right? Am I correct, Phil?
Correct. Yeah. We may be taking action after executive session tonight.
Hey, Phil, is it too late to just fill in the pool and make a splash pad, or is that probably can't do that in a couple months?
The
That way
discussion
We
for
can
another
make it a
year.
trampoline.
Hey, that'll save on labor too. You won't have to hire lifeguards.
Has anybody been over to Louisville and saw the splash pad?
I went by it about 2 months ago.
It's not in their big park.
Mm-mm.
It's in a little park in a neighborhood is where it's at.
Oh, it's in the park by the Methodist church,
right.
right?
Correct. If I talked to some of those people, the Rotary was involved with that over there. That was about a $50 or $60,000 project, I think, to put that splash pad in. So, but I think the Rotary Club played a big part in it, if I'm not mistaken. So. All right, anything else for workshop? What's the
JT, did you have
plan?
anything?
What's the plan here, Phil, to convert to council?
I want to see make sure JT doesn't have anything he wants to talk
Oh.
about first.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, everything can be in council,
Okay.
regular meeting.
Okay. So what's going to happen is I will go upstairs. We will conclude this meeting, meaning we're going to end it. You would have received another invite for the next council meeting to start at 7:30. You can join that when you're ready. The feed out on Spectrum will be continuous, so there will be no break. When we cancel this meeting, it'll go to a black screen of that or some sort. And then as soon as we start the next meeting, that'll be out on Spectrum, and we will go live on YouTube shortly thereafter. Yeah, that's where we're at. So as soon as you leave out of this, if you want to just hop in the next one, go get something to drink and do whatever you need to. We'll see you at 7:30.
All right.
Okay, everybody, you got that?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
See you in a bit.
Yep.